Lately, you've been hearing a ton about the AI scene in Europe, right? And one name that keeps popping up is Mistral AI. They're this French startup, and they're kind of taking on the big AI companies. What's wild is they're doing it with like way fewer resources than giants like, Google and OpenAI. So in this deep dive, we're going to try to unpack how they're pulling off these crazy results.
Yeah, it's fascinating, their whole approach. Like, they're super strategic. Instead of going for, a general AI that can do everything, they're zeroing in on specific areas, places where they can really, really shine.
Right. So it's more like they're these specialized experts, not just a jack of all trades. But I mean, how does that actually play out? How do
Yeah.
they get,
Yeah.
aren't they kind of at a disadvantage going up against companies with like basically unlimited money?
Well, look at their model, Mistral Large. It cost them less than 20 million to develop. Now, to give you some context, GPT-4, that's OpenAI's big one, right?
Right.
That thing had an estimated budget of somewhere between 50 and $100 million.
Whoa, okay, that's a huge difference.
Yeah.
So are they like cutting corners or something to be that efficient?
Not at all. Their secret weapon is, I think, their philosophy. They're all about building these super efficient models that perform really well, but without those insane development costs.
Hmm.
And they're amazing at using open source development. Take Mistral 7B, for example. It's been open source from day one. So
Yeah.
they're benefiting from this global community of developers. All of these people are helping refine it and make it even better.
It's almost like they're crowdsourcing AI development, but on a global scale.
That's very smart. Okay, but let's get into what they're focusing on. You said they specialize, right? What are some of the things Mistral Large is actually killing it at?
One area that's getting a lot of attention is text summarization. Mistral Large is generating a lot of buzz because it can create these super accurate, concise summaries. It's also excelling at generating French text. What's interesting is that it uses a much wider vocabulary, and it doesn't lean so heavily on logical connectors, so the language ends up sounding more natural and elegant. Wait, so does that mean Mistral Large is, like, better than GPT-4 in some ways?
Mm-mm. Well, better is tough to define sometimes. There's no doubt GPT-4 is a powerhouse, but Mistral Large is showing us that it can definitely hold its own and even outperform GPT-4 on certain tasks.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. What's the secret sauce here? How are they achieving this level of performance?
Part of it is definitely their training techniques. They've come up with some really innovative ways to train their models efficiently. But you also have to factor in the human element. Mistral AI was founded by top AI researchers from DeepMind and Meta. I mean, talk about heavy hitters in the AI world, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Having that level of expertise on your team definitely gives you a leg up, but it doesn't sound like they're content to just sit back and relax.
Oh, absolutely not. They're always iterating, always pushing boundaries. They recently released MiQ-170B, which is showing some serious performance improvements. That constant drive to improve is essential in a field like AI that's changing so rapidly.
So it's like this combo of cutting-edge tech, brilliant minds, and just a relentless drive to get better.
Exactly. And that actually leads us to one of their most exciting things lately. Pixtral Large, their jump into the world of multimodal AI.
Multimodal AI. Okay, that sounds pretty complicated. Break that down for me. What does that even mean?
Basically, it means that Pixtral Large can process both text and images. It's like it has eyes and ears, it gives it a level of understanding that's right up there with GPT-4o and Gemini 1.5.
Okay, now that sounds like a real game changer. How does this Pixtral Large thing actually work? Is it just like smashing together existing tech, or is something more innovative happening?
It's a really cool blend of cutting-edge techniques. They've combined a large language model with what's called a visual encoder.
A visual encoder. What does that do exactly?
Basically, it's the part that lets the model see and interpret images. Think of it like translating images into a language that the large language model can understand. So Pixtral Large can get info from both text and visuals. Most models just can't do that.
So like it's giving the AI the ability to read a textbook and understand a diagram at the same time.
That's a fantastic way to put it. And it's leading to some pretty impressive results. Pixtral Large is actually beating the competition on some really tough multimodal benchmarks, like Math Vista, which tests how well it can solve math problems that are presented visually. And Chart QA, that one looks at how well it analyzes charts and answers questions about them. And then there's Doc VQA, which is all about analyzing documents with visuals and answering questions.
That's really impressive. But how does this translate into something, practical, something people can actually use?
Well, their AI assistant, Ladrat, now has Pixtral Large built in. So now you can analyze complex documents that have things like tables, formulas, and graphs. Imagine asking your AI assistant to summarize a financial report that's full of visuals. That's the kind of power Pixtral Large brings.
Wow, that's amazing. So they're not just keeping up with the big AI companies, they're actually pulling ahead in some areas.
They are, and their whole open source thing is a big part of that.
Right, we touched on that earlier, but it almost doesn't make sense. Why would they give away their groundbreaking tech to just anyone? Wouldn't that just help their competitors catch up?
That's where their strategic thinking really shines, I think. They're embracing the power of, like, the wisdom of the crowd. By making their models open source, they get this huge network of developers. All those people can contribute to making the models better and more refined. It leads to much faster innovation and a stronger end product.
So instead of being all secretive and protective, it's more about building a collaborative ecosystem.
Exactly. It also promotes transparency and trust. By opening up their models, they let people see how they work, understand their limits. People can even adapt them for their own specific needs. That kind of transparency is really important, especially with AI becoming such a big part of our lives.
Yeah, I get that. The more we understand about AI, the less scary it seems. But isn't there a risk to making these tools open source? Couldn't someone with bad intentions use them for bad stuff?
That's definitely a valid concern. It's something the whole AI community is wrestling with. The benefits of open source are huge, especially when it comes to accelerating progress and making AI accessible. But the potential for misuse is a serious challenge. Mistral AI and many others in the field believe that setting up responsible use guidelines and really strong ethical frameworks can help reduce those risks.
So it's about finding that balance, making sure AI is a force for good, but also encouraging open innovation. Sounds like Mistral AI is walking that tightrope pretty well.
They are, and that's what makes them so fascinating.
It's amazing what they've achieved in such a short time. They're not just another AI company. They're out there challenging the norms, pushing the limits of what's possible.
Their success really shows how powerful their strategy is, their dedication to innovation, and their belief in open source. It's really shaking things up.
And speaking of shaking things up, Mistral AI is emerging as like a European alternative to the big US-based AI companies. What does that mean for the future of AI and for Europe's role in all this?
That's a really interesting question and one worth digging into further. I think Mistral AI's emergence as this major player shows that AI development is becoming increasingly global. It's not just a Silicon Valley thing anymore. Europe, with all its research institutions and focus on data privacy, they're in a great position to become a leader in ethical and responsible AI. Mistral AI is like the perfect example of that potential.
It's pretty inspiring to see a company like Mistral AI, not just competing with the giants, but doing it on their own terms. They're prioritizing efficiency, transparency, targeted excellence. It really challenges the whole idea of what it takes to succeed in AI.
Totally. Their story shows you don't need billions of dollars to make a real impact in AI. You need ingenuity, a clear vision, and a willingness to work together and share knowledge. That can take you a long way.
And that's what makes this deep dive so cool. It's not just about the tech itself, it's about the people, the strategies, the vision behind it all. Mistral AI is proving that you can get amazing results by thinking differently and forging your own path. Okay, let's take a second to think about what we've learned so far. Then we can jump into the bigger implications of Mistral AI's rise and what it all might mean for you as we navigate this ever-changing world of AI.
Okay, so we've been talking about Mistral AI and their whole approach, right? Like how they're kind of shaking things up in the AI world. And one thing that really sticks out to me is their laser focus on performance. They're not just building AI for the sake of it. It's like every AI they build is designed to be exceptional.
Yeah, it's like they took that whole lean startup philosophy and applied it to AI. Being smaller and more agile actually seems to give them an advantage.
Totally. They don't have all that, bureaucracy and those legacy systems that can slow down bigger companies. So they can be super responsive, adapt to new developments, and pivot really quickly when they need to.
Right, so it's not just that they're small, they're using it to their advantage strategically.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about their technology, their team. But what about, like, partnerships? It seems like they're being pretty choosy about who they team up with.
No, absolutely. Their partnership with Microsoft is a perfect example. By integrating their models into Azure, Microsoft's cloud platform, they're basically making their technology available to a way bigger audience.
It's like building a bridge, right? Between their crazy good AI and all the businesses that could use it. But what's in it for Microsoft? I mean, they're a massive tech company themselves. They have their own AI projects going on.
Of course, yeah. But this partnership gives Microsoft access to all of Mistral AI's unique models and expertise. It's a win-win, really. Microsoft gets to strengthen their AI stuff, And Mistral AI gets a super powerful platform and this whole distribution network.
So they're using partnerships to kind of amplify their impact. And their open source philosophy probably plays a role in that too, right?
For sure. Open source just naturally encourages collaboration and sharing those innovations. It lets them work with other companies and developers in a more transparent way, a way that's fair for everyone. And that can lead to some seriously groundbreaking stuff.
I'm noticing a theme here. Efficiency, performance, collaboration. These all seem like, I don't know, core values for Mistral AI.
You're definitely onto something. They're not just in it for the money. They're
Yeah.
driven by this desire to move AI forward to make it more accessible and beneficial for everybody.
Yeah, it's refreshing to see a company that's so mission-driven,
Yeah.
especially in AI, where it feels like it's all hype and competition sometimes. But, we got to talk about the elephant in the room. AI is advancing so fast, and people are worried about what that means for society. Is Mistral AI addressing those concerns?
Yeah, they are. And their commitment to responsible AI is one of the things that really sets them apart. They get it. Building powerful AI is just the first step. The next step is making sure that AI aligns with human values and that it's used for good.
So it's not just about the tech, but also how it's used and making sure it benefits all of humanity.
Exactly. And this leads us to a really important question. What does all of this mean for, the average person? How will Mistral AI actually affect our lives?
I think a lot of people listening are probably wondering the same thing.
Uh-huh.
It's all exciting, but it can also be a bit overwhelming, right? We hear all this talk about AI changing the world, but it's hard to imagine what that means for us day to day.
Yeah, for sure. AI is already impacting our lives in so many ways we often don't even realize it. But Mistral AI's focus on efficient and accessible AI could have a huge impact on different industries, and that could lead to some real tangible benefits for everyone.
Can you give me some examples, like specific ones?
Absolutely. Imagine personalized educational tools that adapt to each student's learning style. Their models could be used for that. It could totally change how we learn. And in healthcare, AI could be used to analyze medical images and help with diagnoses, so we could catch diseases earlier and treat them more effectively.
So AI could help us learn better and stay healthier. What about other parts of our lives, though?
Well, AI could help businesses streamline their processes, making them more efficient and productive. It could even be used to create new kinds of art and entertainment, pushing the boundaries of creativity.
The possibilities are kind of endless, but it's also a little intimidating, right? It's like we're on the edge of something brand new and we don't know what's out there.
That's a great analogy. We're definitely in uncharted territory, and there will be challenges along the way. But for those who are willing to embrace change and adapt to this new AI-powered world, the opportunities are amazing.
It's clear that Mistral AI is more than just an AI company. They're shaping the future. And they're doing it with a sense of purpose and responsibility that's really inspiring. They're showing that you could be successful and ethical, pushing boundaries, but still doing the right thing.
Yeah, their story is a great reminder that innovation can come from anywhere, and it's often the people who challenge the status quo that make the biggest impact. They're showing the world that you don't have to be a giant to make a difference globally.
What I find really interesting is that their story is still being written.
Mhm.
We're all watching this new era of AI unfold, and Mistral AI is right in the middle of it. So before we wrap up, let's think about what this all means in the bigger picture. What does Mistral AI's rise mean for the future of AI, not just in Europe, but for the whole world?
Okay, so we've talked a lot about Mistral AI, their tech, their partnerships, their commitment to doing AI the right way. But there's one thing I keep coming back to, their role as this European alternative in the AI world. What does that actually mean, and why should we care?
Right. It's not just about where they are on the map. Mistral AI is really changing the power dynamics in AI. Silicon Valley has been the king of AI for so long, but now Mistral is showing that amazing innovation can happen anywhere.
So it's like a challenge to Silicon Valley's dominance. Exactly, and it's a good thing. Having different players in AI, each with their own way of doing things, that's really important if we want to develop this powerful tech responsibly.
You mentioned before that Europe kind of has a different philosophy about AI.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that? What sets them apart from, the Silicon Valley approach?
Well, in Europe, data privacy and ethical considerations have always been super important. The GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, is a great example. It's this whole set of rules that protects people's data in the European Union.
So is Europe being more cautious about AI than other places?
I wouldn't say cautious exactly. It's more about being deliberate and responsible.
Hmm.
Europe is all about making sure AI aligns with their values, things like transparency, accountability, and human oversight.
That makes sense. So how does this connect back to Mistral AI? Are they actively incorporating these European values into their work?
Totally. Their dedication to ethical AI fits perfectly with the European approach. They're not just trying to build the most powerful AI, they're building AI that's meant to be used ethically. Like, their open source approach is a great example of how committed they are to transparency.
So it's not just about the tech, it's about the values behind it, right?
Exactly. And that's what makes Mistral AI so important. They're showing everyone that you can be innovative and responsible at the same time. You can push the limits of AI and still do the right thing.
It's really inspiring, their story. They've challenged the status quo and made a global impact, but without compromising their values. What do you think this means for other companies, other entrepreneurs in the AI world?
I think Mistral AI is like a shining example. They're showing that you can be successful by doing good. You don't have to choose between ethics and innovation, you can have both. And they're not just building a company, they're helping to create a more ethical future for AI.
It's clear they're a force to be reckoned with, and their impact is going way beyond Europe. So what do you think? What's next for Mistral AI?
Well, it's always tough to predict the future, especially in a field like AI that's constantly changing. But one thing's for sure, Mistral AI is here to stay. They've made their mark, and they're just getting started. I have no doubt we'll keep seeing amazing, groundbreaking things from them.
I think everyone listening would agree. We're excited to see what they do next. It's good to know that there are companies like Mistral AI out there, companies that are committed to building AI that benefits all of us.
Yeah, their story reminds us that we all have a part to play in shaping the future of AI. Our choices, what we do, our values, they all matter. They'll determine the direction AI takes. So let's make good choices, be responsible, and work together to create a future with AI that we can all be proud of.
That's a great point to wrap things up on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Mistral AI. It's been really fascinating. I know I learned a ton.
The pleasure was all mine. It's always great to talk about such a cool and impactful field, especially with such an awesome audience.